So today we want to talk about Pamela Lamson. Pam Lamson was a murder victim. She died on October 9th, 1977. And it was a part of the television show Death Row Confidential. But there's more to it. And that's what I want to get into a little bit today because it's very important because another individual was publicly blamed for this murder. So, the information that I got from Bill Noguera on this case was relatively short. He had said that Joe Naso told him that this girl that he killed was her death was being blamed on another individual, and that other individual was on death row in San Quentin with Bill Noguera and Joe Naso. He said her name was Pam, and he couldn't remember her last name. She wore a white outfit. He had picked her out at an Oakland A's game where he was a fake photographer. Remember, Joe Naso had credentials that they found during a search warrant that indicated that he made his own fake press pass, and he would go on the field and take photographs up into the stands. I think I might have some photos of that still here that we used on the show, which, yeah, these were pretty relevant, I thought. See how he would take photographs of people in the stands at the Oakland A's game. They showed these, I think, briefly on the show, but look how close he was on this picture. That's Reggie Jackson. And of course. So that's how he was able to pick up Pam Lamson. On the show, there was a phone call, I think, very briefly between myself and one of Pam Lamson's friends who was with Pam at the time that Joe Naso approached her. Now, she never saw Joe Naso because what had happened, as she explained to us, was that Pam got up to go to the restroom or to get drinks or snacks or something during the game. And that is when she came back, she told her friend, hey, look, she had a business card. I met a photographer. He's an Oakland A's photographer. He does shoots for models. And he said that he would love to shoot me, and I'm scheduled to go with him. So they made an appointment to do so, and they were to meet at Fisherman's Wharf. And that's one of the indicators that Joe Naso had told Bill Noguera. I met her at Fisherman's Wharf. She was an aspiring singer wearing a white outfit. That was it. And that he ended up posing her up against a tree. So it didn't take long to solve that one as well. I just started searching some Fisherman's Wharf murders, San Francisco 70s, and I was looking for missing persons, but then I thought, wait a second. He said somewhere in those notes that somebody else was blamed for it, so let me start looking at that. And that's when I found Rodney Alcala, or Alcala. And the person that he was blamed to have murdered was a girl named Pam, and it was Pam Lamson. And when I started researching Pam Lamson, one of the photos that I saw of her was in a white outfit that she had worn for that photo shoot. So I knew that Joe Naso was telling the truth. It wasn't just that. The fact that Naso was taking pictures at the Oakland A's game, and you have a witness there. I mean, that's very important. You have a witness, one of Pam's friends, that says, hey, she came back from going to the bathroom. She showed us a card. She had run into a photographer. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out Joe Naso found his next victim. So what I was trying to figure out wasn't whether Joe Naso had killed Pam Lamson. It was, is she on the list of 10? And Joe said that she wasn't. But Pam Lamson was found on Mount Tam. So then I started thinking, well, we have 2 people. And I'll link one of the episodes that I previously did on the girl on Mount Tam, and you can see why the confusion. Now, for the show, they wanted to show that the list of 10, the girl on Mount Tam, was in fact Pam Lamson. Where, in fact, I don't believe that. I believe it's an unknown victim that we don't know yet, even though Pam Lamson was found on Mount Tam. So I researched Rodney Alcala, trying to look for similarities in his murders. I mean, he was a very violent and disturbed individual as well. And it was just that he certainly is capable, okay? Years after Pam Lamson was found murdered, the Marin County, I believe it was the Sheriff's Department, came and they held a press conference to say that Rodney Alcala is the murderer of Pam Lamson. And that was based off of a sketch that a witness had seen her talking to somebody that had long hair. Well, in the 70s, that was pretty common, but they were saying that that person was Rodney Alcala, or Alcala. He used to, he's dead now, but I guess he would get upset on the way his name was pronounced. He liked it Alcala. No, he liked the way it was pronounced was Alcala. But I've always said Alcala, so I'm going to stick with Alcala. But anyhow, I digress. His MO was very different. And it just didn't fit to me that Pam Lamson met her demise via Rodney Alcala. Now, Rodney Alcala was still alive. He had gone to trial. He got found guilty of these murders. After the trial, they found him guilty of a couple more through DNA. And he eventually said yes. He admitted to killing all the individuals that they blamed him of, except for one. Which one? That's right. He would never cop to Pamela Lamson's murder. He said, I didn't do it. To the fact, he actually called and wrote a letter to the sheriff's department to say, hey, I didn't do this. I told you I didn't do this one. Now, according to Bill Noguera, Joe Naso thought that was humorous, that Alcala was being blamed for this murder, and he actually did it. So during the show, you see me meet with Pam Lamson's brother, Michael, at his house and on speakerphone with her other brothers. And it's crazy to me that was an all-day thing. You know, I sat with him and talked with them, and they filmed and did this for all day, an 8-hour shoot, and they used maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds of it. So what you didn't see was the crying, the emotions. You saw a little bit of it, but there was so much more. And I had to lay out the facts because, listen, they've thought for all these decades that this case was closed and the murderer was Rodney Alcala. And here comes me with a television crew saying, no, 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 police got it wrong. It's this. If you are going to do that, you better come with facts, not speculation. They don't need their mind stirring this back up if you're not going to come correct. So I had to come with facts, photographs, statements, and let them know, hey, I would not be coming here to your domicile to bring all this emotion back up into you if I wasn't positive. And I did it because I felt strongly that they should know. I am a truth person, meaning everything that I do, even if it hurts you, if it's the truth, I feel compelled to tell you about honesty. I learned that lesson a long time ago. So I had to let them know. And then it's not my job then to convince them. Listen, I got these set of facts. I've researched it. I investigated it. And I believe, in my opinion, your sister was murdered not by Rodney Alcala, but by Joe Naso. And here are the reasons. A, B, C, D. Here you go. It's my job, my duty to let you know that. And then you can do with that what you want. You can say, oh, he's crazy. I don't believe him. That never happened, okay? Because the facts that I brought were so strong, and I believe, along with my integrity and character, to go along with that. Because, listen, I'm not flying across the country, for the heck of it. I really believe this. And here you go. Now, when the show aired, afterwards, I got a phone call. I didn't recognize it. It was Los Angeles. More than half the time. I'm going to say 99% of the time. I won't answer phone calls that I don't recognize. But it was Los Angeles, and I was like, it might be Dick Wolf, for all I know. Saying, hey, congratulations. And no, although it was produced by Dick Wolf, I never met the guy, and he never called me. But some of his people there I have talked to, and they were super, super nice. And so, that whole year of 2025, I was basically living out of Los Angeles or in California area. So I thought it might be somebody I know. So I did answer. And it was Pam Lamson's friend who she was at that game with. And I was glad I took that call because she was so happy that somebody, listened to her. Hey, put the puzzle pieces together. And one of the things that we talked about that was not brought up on the show, but I find it, I guess, more intriguing than important, because it may have played a role in her death. But because of Naso's personality. But it was just intriguing to me based off of where they were sitting. So Pam Lamson's friend says, well, we were sitting up front for the Oakland A's game, as we always did, because they were each seeing players. And I still am, but I was, when I was a kid, a huge baseball fan, especially the Pittsburgh Pirates. But in this instance, we're talking about the Oakland A's. Reggie Jackson was on that team. I think Vida Blue. This is some other people that I recognized. And when I asked her, who was Pam seeing? Was she dating? And she kind of gave me the wink. Yeah, we were dating the athletes. it was more of probably, and I'm going to guess, based on my knowledge, that it was more of a sexual type thing. Well, I know it was. And it's no indication to Pam Lamson's character. She was young. I don't know how old she was at the time. 23 maybe. But she was sleeping with one of the players, as was the friend, and they used to hang out at their apartments, and then come. They gave them tickets to the game, and they would come there and sit up front. And guess who was watching all of this? Joe Naso was watching it from on the field, and for some reason, and I'm going to say it's because of Pam Lamson's looks. She was a beautiful woman. He keyed in on her, and the reason I say it may have something to do with her death is because Joe Naso's personality is that he would become jealous. That she's getting this attention from the ball player and vice versa. And he could feed that into his hatred of women. She is taking advantage of that ball player. Whatever it is, that's one way that he could frame it in his mind. Whatever it was, it led him to, listen, he didn't just run into her as she goes and gets a drink. He was following her. He knew who he wanted, and he was waiting like the predator that he is to get the opportunity to, when she got separated from the herd, right? Your friends, you're safe. He's not going to approach her then. As soon as she breaks away from the herd, he's on her. He's not going to kill her then, okay? It's the ruse, the same thing that works all the time. It has been working. Give her a card, fake name, Joe Naso, whatever he wants to use at that time, and set it up and kill her. Of course, he's going to sexually assault her first. When he says like that he didn't do that to Lynn Connis, he's a liar. He sexually assaulted her. He's minimizing. So he did the same thing with Pam Lamson. So why did Marin County come out and blame Rodney Alcala? Well, again, it was mostly based on that witness. But Alcala, again, denied it. He admitted all the others, but denied that one. I think they were hasty in their approach to close that case, because it was a pretty big case. But I didn't see any other evidence, or they never put forth any other evidence of why they thought it was Rodney Alcala. No DNA. He never confessed. It was just a witness saw a girl looking like Pam Lamson talking to somebody that had long hair that may or may not, I don't think, resembles Rodney Alcala, who was never in Oakland at that time, or San Francisco, I'm sorry. So it just didn't fit. So the investigator he believed it. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't point the finger at that investigator. He felt, hey, I have enough to publicly, and I don't know if I would have done that. I would have wanted more evidence. Me personally, that's my opinion, before publicly coming out and blaming him. But, most of the society is going to say, well, who cares? Who cares if you're blaming Rodney Alcala? He's a piece of garbage who murdered kids and young women, and he's in prison, and he's never getting out. So blame him, case closed. It wasn't like he was blaming him for no reason. In his mind, during his investigation, he thought that he had enough to do that. I don't particularly blame him. But he was wrong. Now, he may look at what I have done, my investigation, and be like, no, you're wrong. I was right. I don't expect him to say, no, yep, you're right, Kenny Maines. Rodney Alcala didn't kill her. I don't expect that. He has his opinion and his evidence, and I have mine. One of us is right. Again, we both could be wrong, right? But I feel very confident that Pam Lamson was a victim of Joe Naso, based on the totality of all the evidence. The fake press pass, the girlfriend saying, yeah, she met a photographer at the Oakland's game. I showed you the pictures that he took at Oakland from the field, looking up into the stands where he probably spotted her. Rodney Alcala never being in San Francisco to kill. It's things like that, you know. Now, when we searched for the girl on Mount Tam for the show, we had a bunch of different law enforcement there with us. Now, Marin County was not part of the plan. Of course, I invited them, anybody that had anything to do with Joe Naso, come, you know. I'll share everything with you. We had the K-9 up there, but Marin County really wasn't there until we started the search. Then 2 detectives showed up, a male and a female. They both gave me their cards. I have it right here. Office of Jamie Scardina, sheriff. But a sergeant and a detective showed up. I wouldn't say that they were overly nice. Now, it was a wet, dreary day, so maybe that had something to play into it. But they walked along with us in the rain, you know, and they stayed in the back. None of them really talked to me until the end, when I was talking to not one of them, but another department, and I said about Pam Lamson, that I felt that Joe Naso killed her, and basically Joe Naso said he killed a girl named Pam and I went through it all. The sergeant said, oh, he said he did Pam. Semantics. I just didn't like how he said that. I was like, but I was, yeah. And here's the information I have. And I whipped out my binder. It was raining, popped up the hood of a SUV and tried to get under it so I could show those guys. And I took their cards. I said, hey, give me your information. I will send you everything I have, all the notes. They said, yep, okay. So when we got done filming and I ended up flying back home to Pennsylvania, I got all the notes on Pam Lamson, my entire investigation, and I emailed it separately to the sergeant and the detective. And I never heard anything. Now, I got to admit that just like everybody, we all have our weaknesses. Now, it's what you do with those weaknesses, I think, that make you the person that you are. And because I realize I have weaknesses, I try to correct them. And my weakness is when I go out of my way to be nice or respectful and do things, and it's not reciprocated back to me, I take it as a slight. And because neither of them would even acknowledge a thank you that I did this, even if they didn't believe it, I'll admit I felt, and I still feel, a little slighted, and I don't like it. But I'm working on that. It's much like the Brenda Conda investigation where, listen, I solved that case. Whether Trooper Martini from Rockview State Police believes it or not, and the way she categorized me to the victim's sister, saying, well, don't believe him, he's just doing things for clicks. And now anybody has ever watched me I've never once asked for a subscription, whatever it is, to subscribe to the channel. I never asked comment below. I never asked to share. None of that. So she was making a characterization of me without even knowing me. And that really upset me. And I still hold resentment there. But I'm working on that. So, boy, I digressed big time there. But I just wanted to illustrate, I sent all this information to Marin County. They refused to participate in the documentary. I got no problem with that. Like that, I don't feel slighted about that. That's their, I get that. There was another officer, Sergeant Brian something, in regards to Deal, when I thought that Gail Marie Dahl was the girl in the red bandana that turned out to be Georgia Durant. He didn't have the common courtesy to get back to me after 2 emails either. And I just hate that. I hate that so much, especially from law enforcement, because I was in law enforcement for 17 years. Okay. Somebody, a member of the public, reaches out to you with information on a cold case, at least have the damn common courtesy to email them back and say, I got it, working on it. But that didn't happen. So I guess I should be used to it, but I'll never get used to it. But I am working on it, and that's the bottom line. So the person that Pam Lamson was sleeping with during this time, the Oakland A's baseball player, I do know who it was, but I'm not going to put it out there because he's still alive. He's in his probably 70s, 80s now, whatever it is. I'm not going to reopen those wounds to either side of the family. But it explained a lot to me about how Pam Lamson was chosen as a victim. And you can see how these ripple effects take place, because of her, her choice in a boyfriend or a guy that she was seeing on the side, and him getting them tickets and seats here, foreshadowed Joe Naso being on the field, taking photographs with this fake press pass, and everyone believing he was an ace photographer when he wasn't. Him now spotting Pam Lamson because she's up front, close to the field because of her relationship with the Oakland A's player. You see how it was a ripple effect and how it all comes together, and it's really fascinating. But Joe Naso killed her. There were speculations that the person, whoever killed her at the time, threw her down over an embankment and she landed up against this tree naturally. But that wasn't the case. Naso posed her. He's the only girl that I know, victim, that he posed. Now, according to Bill, he said the reason he did it, he thought it was funny. He was trying something different. She wanted to be a star. That's the reason, the ruse that he got to get Pam to Fisherman's Wharf. She wanted to be a singer, and he said he could help her with that and all this. And I'll put up some stuff here about the notes, where he talks about the girl on Mount Tam and her wanting to be an aspiring singer, and he was like, well, now she's getting all the attention because I posed her. Things like that. To my knowledge, Rodney Alcala, he never posed any of his victims. What else do I want to talk about? Michael Lamson saying that he was the one who had identified the body of his sister, and he was describing to me the bruising and scrapes that she had on her. I don't know. I think the older I get in life, the more that stuff affects me. And you think you would be hardened from it, from looking at all these cases. Um, and I am for the most part, but man, when you talk to these victims' family members and you see that it never leaves them, and I'm a big proponent of talking to somebody in their eyes, looking at them in their eyes, and when you do that and you're talking to victims' family members, and you can see that they're looking at you, but it's almost like that 1,000-yard stare, in the Marine Corps in Vietnam, and it's just they're thinking about stuff that they had suppressed for so long, but they can see it. They're looking right past you, and they're going back in their brain to the day that he was in the morgue looking at his younger sister's body and feeling all the guilt. Now he's a very religious person, and he has a strong belief Pam's in heaven, as do I believe that. And that has helped him. But what he felt at that moment, I can't even imagine. He told me he felt guilty. I should have protected her. And I know that feeling. Anybody that's ever lost anyone really close to them, especially younger, they'll know that feeling too. I had that feeling with my son. I still have that feeling. Why wasn't I there to protect him? What did I do wrong? So I get it. It'll never leave him or his other brothers, who unfortunately I didn't really meet face to face, but I did talk to him on the phone. I'm very appreciative that they even spoke with me, that they were willing to listen to what I had to say and then agree with me. And for them to say, hey, we never thought it was Rodney Alcala to begin with. We thought that they were very hasty in saying that. What you brought us makes a lot more sense. So, what if they have DNA on Pam Lamson and they run it and it comes back to Joe Naso? Do you think that they would risk that embarrassment? I don't. I do not. Because there's nothing to gain for Marin County. Meaning, they have to backtrack and say, oh, we have DNA. We never tested it before, but we're going to test it now. And it's not Rodney Alcala's. It's Joe Naso. But he's locked up. And Rodney Alcala's dead. We're not going to take him to trials. And so what's it matter? It's a lose-lose for Marin County. So they'll never do it. But I'm satisfied that I know the truth. And I'd love to talk to the investigator who came out publicly and held a press conference and said that Rodney Alcala was responsible. I would hope that we could have a civil conversation, about what he saw, and what I saw, and, work together maybe to come up with a resolution. That would be nice. But, to me, the facts are the facts, and this is what I see, and this is what everybody sees once the facts are out there. So that's that on Pam Lamson. I think the case is closed, and I think Joe Naso is responsible for her murder. Joe Naso hasn't called me yet. I keep hearing that he was going to. He has my number. But it wouldn't matter if he does. He's not going to admit to anything. He just talked to a news reporter not long ago, and he kept denying it, all of it. So he's still the very essence of narcissistic traits, and it'll never leave him. I did receive an email recently from a girl who said that she was being stalked by Joe Naso. She had double initials and she wanted to talk to me about it, and I reached out to her. reached back to her and said, yeah, I'll hear your story. Let me know. But there are a lot of other potential victims and victims that Joe Naso talked about. Hitchhiker that he had killed, he shot her because he was getting older and he couldn't strangle her and she was kicking his ass when he was trying. I'd like to talk about that on an episode of the Naso Files. There was another murder that the investigator that was investigating, the lead investigator on the Naso case, thought that he did, that we met on camera and talked about, and they cut out the whole scene. But he was adamant that Naso committed that murder. So we could talk about that. There's a couple in Las Vegas that I need to talk about yet and get that out there. So, yeah, that's it. I don't think there's anything else about Pam Lamson case. Let me just go through my binder here to make sure. Not in the top 10 list. These are the notes. This is what I had to work off of. Okay, when Bill Noguera would talk to Joe Naso out in the yard through a number of years, then he would go back and write these notes of what Naso told him. And this is what I pieced together through the notes. She's not on the top 10 list. She was a pretty blonde girl, went by the name Pam, killed in October of 1977, 19 years old at the time of the killing, disappeared after making a trip to the Fisherman's Wharf to meet him. She drove her car there to meet him. Naso said he could help launch her singing career. She wore a white outfit, and he dumped her body on Mount Tam like the one of his previous victims because it worked so well before. And I'll obviously throw up some pictures that I have of Pam Lamson. Here's an article that I have in here about when the Marin County Sheriff's Department blamed Rodney Alcala. It says a break came with a phone call from his old employee. The Marin County Sheriff's Department reopened the case after Alcala wrote the department a letter asking for the date of Lamson's murder. Detective Ryan Peterson, who interviewed Alcala at San Quentin Prison, said Alcala had read a news article that connected him to the killing, and he was trying to establish his innocence. He seemed like a guy who had many years to get good at telling people what they wanted to hear, Peterson said. See, that's one of the reasons I'd love to talk to the detective. He met with Alcala, and he has more information that's out there. Alcala denied killing her, but the exchange roused Peterson's suspicions. Here then they talk about they thought Lamson's body was pushed from a car on a mountain road and tumbled to a stop in a seating position, arms and legs akimbo, her back against the tree. But Damon Davis, a detective who pored over the evidence for 6 months, thought she had been posed, just like Naso said. So you guys can look at that. I mean, all you have to do is Google Pam Lamson's murder, and you're going to see a lot of stuff pop up that you can read about it yourself. But any of the one of the things that I want to put out there too is for the show I wanted to go and interview some of the remaining members of that Oakland A's team, because I guarantee they or the people in charge of the press show them a picture of Naso to confirm it. But I guess the budget didn't allow that because it never happened. But I still would like to talk to those old Oakland A's baseball players to see if any of them remember Joe Naso or Pam Lamson. I'll put up a picture of the Oakland A's team at the time. And anyways, Pam Lamson, victim of Joe Naso. Heart goes out to the family members. I still, want to thank law enforcement for their work on the case, even though maybe I had some standoffishness, or they may have had it against me. It still doesn't take away of this Ryan Peterson doing his job, and I'm certainly grateful for that. And I just thank everybody all around. Her family, brothers, my hearts go out. I'm so glad and I'm appreciative that I met you guys and was able to tell you my opinion on what I think happened to your sister. And thank you for allowing me into your home to do so. And I pray for you guys, and I pray for still for Pam. She's always in my thoughts. To a very innocent person who went way too early, and just like I said in the show, to Michael Lamson, Pam did nothing wrong, nor did any of her brothers. They couldn't change this fate, and it was because of the actions of one individual, Joe Naso. Thanks for watching. Main's out.